Have you ever watched someone lose the very thing they thought would never leave? That moment when they finally open their eyes, only to realize they've pushed away the one person who loved them most. It doesn't happen with shouting or dramatic scenes. It happens in silence, in the quiet pause between her last message and his late reply. In the space where warmth used to live, now replaced by emptiness. It's not loud, but it shakes him to his core. He thought she'd always be there. He believed her love was endless. But love has limits, and when it's not met with effort, it leaves. She didn't walk away because she stopped loving him. She walked away because she finally started loving herself more. She waited, she tried, she hoped. And with every unanswered question, every emotional wall, every moment he kept her at arm's length, a piece of her broke quietly. She didn't ask for perfection, just presence. Not control, just connection. But he built his identity on independence and distance, hiding his heart behind sarcasm and silence, thinking that was strength. He couldn't see that she was never asking for too much. She was asking the wrong person. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it just decides. And that's the kind of pain he felt when he turned around and realized she was gone. Gone, not just physically, but emotionally. No anger, no revenge, just peace. The kind of peace that says, I'm done waiting for someone who isn't ready. And when she left, something in him broke. Not because she disappeared, but because deep down he knew he lost a woman who loved like a queen. This isn't about blaming him. This is about understanding what happens when you take real love for granted. When you mistake patience for weakness. When you think someone will always wait just because they always have. Avoidants don't crumble when they're chased. They crumble when the chasing stops, when the calls go unanswered, when the texts don't come, when the energy that once filled their life suddenly vanishes. That's when the cracks begin to show. If you've ever been the one holding on, the one overthinking, the one wondering why your love wasn't enough, you need to hear this. It was enough. You were enough. But no amount of love can fill someone who isn't open to receiving it. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to remember it. And when you finally walk away, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, everything changes. That's when the real shift begins. Stay with this message, because by the end of it, you won't just understand what went wrong. You'll understand what makes you powerful. You'll see why walking away wasn't your loss, it was your beginning. And you'll know exactly why the ones who couldn't meet you where you stood will feel your absence louder than they ever felt your presence. She didn't leave because she stopped caring. She left because she finally understood that caring alone was never going to be enough. There comes a moment when a woman realizes that staying with someone who can't meet her halfway is a quiet form of self-abandonment. And that realization hits harder than heartbreak. It isn't loud. It doesn't come with fanfare. It's a whisper that says, I can't keep betraying myself to make this work. And when she finally listens to that voice, everything changes. The tears don't stop because she no longer loves him. They stop because she finally loves herself more than the idea of being chosen by someone who was never ready to receive her love. She loved with her whole heart. That wasn't the problem. The problem was pouring into someone who refused to open. She tried to understand his distance. She made excuses for his silence. She believed in his potential more than his presence, and for a while that belief kept her anchored to hope. But over time, the silence grew heavier. The connection became one-sided, and the emptiness he created inside the relationship started to mirror the emptiness she felt within herself. That's when she knew she couldn't wait anymore. Not because she stopped believing in love, but because she started believing in herself. She didn't become cold, she became clear. There's a difference. She stopped chasing. She stopped explaining. She stopped showing up for someone who kept disappearing. And in that choice, she stepped into her power. Walking away wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It was the realization that loving someone who isn't emotionally available isn't noble, it's self-destructive. And when she chose herself, something powerful shifted. The woman who once begged for connection became the woman who refused to beg for the bare minimum. And that's what avoidant men never expect. They don't expect her to wake up one day and leave with grace. They don't expect her to stop reaching out, to stop giving chances. They never think the well will run dry until it does. And when it does, they don't just miss her. They miss the reflection of who they could have been in her love. Because she didn't love him for who he was. She loved him for who he could become, if only he'd let himself be loved. But he ran from closeness, from healing, from truth. And by the time he looked back, she was already gone. This is where transformation begins. Not in begging for love, but in rising from the pain of being overlooked. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop lowering your standards, you start raising your value. You don't lose love by walking away. You lose the illusion that staying would have changed them. And that illusion? That's the weight you were never meant to carry. Let it go. Because your worth doesn't live in how long you wait. It lives in how powerfully you choose yourself. Every time. He didn't realize the value of her presence until it became a memory he couldn't stop replaying. That's the thing about avoidance. It tricks you into thinking distance keeps you safe, until that distance becomes permanent. And when the silence she once used as a warning becomes her final goodbye, it cuts deeper than he ever expected. Not because she's being cruel, but because she's done trying to fix what he kept breaking. She was his safe place, his mirror, his chance at something real. But he couldn't see past his fear. So he pushed her away, slowly, habitually, almost without noticing, until there was nothing left to push. People like him don't crumble when they're pursued. They crumble when the pursuit ends, when the texts stop, when the checking in stops, when she no longer tries to pull him close, because the silence left in her absence forces him to hear everything he refused to listen to when she was near. The truth echoes. The regrets pile up. He tells himself he just needs space, that he'll reach out when he's ready. But time doesn't wait. And while he delays, she evolves. She outgrows the version of herself that needed his validation. She becomes a woman he no longer recognizes, stronger, wiser, free. And that's when it hits. The emotional collapse, the internal shattering, the moment when avoidance stops feeling like control and starts feeling like loss. He thought emotional detachment protected him from pain. What it really did was protect him from love. And now, stripped of the safety net she used to be, he faces himself, raw, exposed, and painfully aware of what he let slip away. That's when the walls start to close in. Because no amount of logic can cover the hole left by a woman who gave him everything and asked only for honesty in return. This is what avoidance never prepares them for. The storm after she leaves. The weight of what they refuse to hold. The realization that pushing people away doesn't prevent abandonment, it creates it. And the one they pushed? She didn't leave to hurt them. She left to save herself. And that truth is what breaks them. Not her absence, but the version of themselves they have to face in her silence. Because she was their last chance to change, and they stayed the same. But you are not meant to wait for someone's breakthrough at the cost of your own breakdown. You are not meant to carry the emotional weight of two people. You are meant to love deeply, but not endlessly. Not when that love becomes self-sacrifice. When you walk away from someone who can't choose you, you're not giving up, you're rising up. And in doing so, you teach the world how to treat you. You teach yourself that love is not meant to be begged for. It's meant to be mutual, open, fearless. And if they couldn't give you that, let them feel the void you once filled. Strong women don't leave because they're cold. They leave because they're exhausted. Not from loving, but from loving alone. They give and give until their spirit starts to whisper, "This is costing me too much." That's the moment everything changes. Not because she wants to hurt him, but because staying would mean continuing to hurt herself. Her goodbye is not revenge. It's release. It's the quiet return to self after losing pieces of who she was trying to hold everything together. She gave him her presence, her softness, her patience, and he gave her just enough to keep her hoping. But hope can't survive where effort is absent, and eventually she realizes that choosing him means abandoning herself. She doesn't slam the door, she doesn't scream, she just stops showing up in places where she was constantly made to feel like too much and not enough at the same time. Because the truth is, she was never asking for too much. She was asking for consistency, honesty, connection. But when those things are treated like burdens instead of gifts, she knows it's time to go. Not because she stopped caring, but because she finally understands that love is not supposed to be earned through suffering. It's supposed to be shared. And when she leaves, something powerful awakens within her. The silence she once feared becomes her sanctuary. The solitude she once dreaded becomes her strength. She learns that peace is more important than potential, that someone's promise of who they might become is never more valuable than the reality of who they are right now. She let go, not because she gave up on love, but because she remembered what love is supposed to feel like. It's supposed to heal, not drain, to uplift, not diminish, to grow together, not shrink alone. This is the truth avoidants never expect to face. They think silence keeps them safe. They think detachment gives them control. But when she finally walks away, they are left with everything they refuse to feel, and they crumble, not all at once, slowly, quietly, completely, because she was never the problem. She was the answer they weren't ready for, the mirror they couldn't face, the one who saw their worth even when they couldn't. And when she's gone, they are forced to look at the damage they caused by pushing away the very thing they always claimed they didn't need, connection. But here's what matters most. Her strength isn't in walking away. It's in the love she gave before she did, in the way she stayed soft in a world that tried to harden her, in the way she believed, hoped, forgave, and finally, in the way she chose herself, even when it hurt. That kind of woman doesn't just walk away, she rises, and when she rises, she doesn't look back. Because once you know your worth, you stop settling for less than truth, and truth always begins the moment you say no more. There is nothing more dangerous to someone who thrives on distance than a woman who finally sees clearly, not through anger, not through blame, but through awareness, the kind that comes after long nights of overthinking, after giving chance after chance, after hoping that love alone would be enough to break through his walls. When she finally stops trying to prove her worth, she doesn't become bitter, she becomes unshakable. Because clarity is the beginning of self-respect. And self-respect doesn't ask for permission to leave. It simply walks away from what no longer feels like peace. She spent so long trying to be the exception, trying to be patient with his coldness, trying to make sense of his silence. She confused his withdrawal with mystery, his avoidance with depth. But avoidance isn't depth, it's fear hiding in the shape of independence. And when she saw that truth, it shattered the illusion. She realized that love is not supposed to feel like waiting. It's not supposed to feel like begging someone to show up emotionally. Real love meets you where you are, not where it's convenient. And once that truth settles in her heart, everything else becomes non-negotiable. The moment she lets go of the fantasy, she gains her freedom. No longer tied to the false hope that he'll change. No longer stuck in the cycle of giving more and receiving less. She takes back every part of herself that she handed over in desperation, and she rebuilds. Slowly, powerfully, fully, because losing someone who never truly saw her was not a loss. It was a return to her strength, a return to her standards, a return to her voice that had been silenced by compromise. What he didn't understand is that love isn't about space, it's about safety, emotional safety, the kind that says, you can be all of you here and I'll still stay. But he wasn't ready for that. He thought freedom was found in keeping people at arm's length. He thought control was strength, but real strength is vulnerability. Real connection doesn't come from being chased, it comes from being seen. And when she stopped chasing, he was left to face the emptiness of his own design. This is how avoidance collapses, from the inside out. Not because someone left too soon, but because they stayed too long. Long enough to expose everything he tried to hide. Long enough to offer him love that asked for nothing but presence. And when that love is gone, it leaves behind a silence that can't be filled with distraction. It leaves behind a mirror that reflects everything he refused to become. But the power now belongs to her. Not because she won, but because she finally chose peace over potential. That kind of decision doesn't just change her relationships, it changes her life. Because once a woman remembers who she is, no amount of distance, silence, or coldness can ever convince her to forget again. She is no longer waiting to be chosen. She has already chosen herself. When you finally choose yourself, something inside you shifts forever. It's not just a decision, it's a rebirth. You no longer crave validation from someone who couldn't show up. You stop seeking love in places that only offer confusion. You start seeing that what you were asking for wasn't too much. You were simply asking the wrong person. The moment you stop shrinking yourself to fit into their comfort zone is the moment you realize you were always the one with the power. Not the kind of power that controls, but the kind that liberates. The kind that says, I'm done chasing someone who's afraid of being caught. There is nothing stronger than a heart that has broken and still chooses to open again, but only for what is real, only for what meets it with the same depth, the same energy, the same honesty. You're not hard to love. You just needed someone who isn't afraid of closeness, someone who doesn't disappear when emotions get deep, someone who doesn't shut down the moment you ask for more than surface-level connection. But now, you no longer wait for that someone to appear. You become that person for yourself. You create your own wholeness. You stop handing out pieces of your soul to people who haven't even earned your presence. Avoidants don't crumble because they're alone. They crumble because they finally see what their fear cost them. They realize they mistook love for a threat. They pushed away the one person who saw them fully and loved them anyway. And when she leaves, they're left staring at their own resistance. Because the woman they dismissed was never asking for perfection. She was asking for participation, for presence, for effort. And when she walks, it's not because she stopped believing in the relationship. It's because she started believing in herself more. Healing begins when you stop personalizing someone else's emotional unavailability, when you understand that their walls were not a reflection of your worth, but of their wounds. You didn't fail, you didn't fall short. You just reached a point where loving them felt more like self-abandonment than devotion. And that moment, that awakening, is everything, because it frees you. It releases you from the grip of trying to prove your value. It reminds you that the right love will never ask you to earn your place. It will never make you question your enoughness. It will feel like peace, not confusion. You didn't walk away because you were weak. You walked because staying meant losing yourself. And now, each step forward is a return to your truth. You're no longer looking back, hoping they'll realize what they lost. You're moving forward, realizing what you've gained. You are not here to fix people who refuse to face themselves. You are here to grow, to rise, to love with a heart that is no longer willing to bleed for breadcrumbs. This is your power, this is your peace, and this is just the beginning. You never needed to chase love. You needed to remember that love flows where it is safe to land, and safety doesn't come from walking on eggshells, silencing your needs, or questioning your worth every time they pull away. Safety is found in honesty, in emotional consistency, in someone who doesn't flinch when you get vulnerable. But now you've learned not to confuse emotional distance with emotional strength. You've seen what happens when you give your heart to someone afraid of their own. And that realization, that deep, soul-awakening truth, has become your liberation. You are not here to convince someone to be ready. You are not meant to explain your needs over and over to someone who only listens when they feel like it. You deserve to be heard the first time. You deserve to feel held even when you're not perfect. And that kind of love doesn't require you to beg. It doesn't make you question whether you're asking for too much. It meets you with open arms, open eyes, and an open heart. Because when someone truly values you, they don't disappear when it matters most. They show up. And now you know what it feels like when someone doesn't. That knowing is your power, because from it you rise with boundaries instead of walls. You choose peace over potential. You choose alignment over attachment. You choose your soul over someone else's silence. And that's not selfish, that's sacred. You've spent too long trying to decode mixed signals, too long hoping that love would show up in a different form if you just gave it more time. But love doesn't come dressed in confusion. It comes as clarity. It doesn't pull away when things get real. It leans in, it listens, it stays. Avoidants always think they'll get another chance. They think the door they walk through will always be open. But what they don't realize is that women like you don't leave for drama, they leave for dignity. They walk when it costs too much to stay silent. And by the time he realizes what he lost, it's not just her presence that's gone. It's her energy, her light, her trust. Because she didn't leave to make a statement. She left to save her soul. Now you're no longer waiting for someone to come back. You're not hoping they'll wake up. Because you have. You've woken up to your power, to your worth, to the kind of love that doesn't make you earn it, the kind that doesn't live behind walls or vanish when you're hurting. You've stepped into your own love story, one where you are the source, not the seeker. And from this place, you no longer accept crumbs. You set the table for those who know how to feast on truth. Your strength isn't in how long you held on. It's in how deeply you finally let go. And in that release, you found everything they could never give you, yourself. When you stop begging to be understood, you begin to understand yourself. You begin to hear the voice that was drowned out by doubt, the voice that whispered truths your heart wasn't ready to face. Now you're listening. Now you're awake. You no longer take someone's inability to show up as a reflection of your value. You see it for what it is, a limit they chose not to rise beyond. And that's not your burden to carry anymore. You gave enough. You showed up. You loved with your whole soul. And that matters, even if they couldn't receive it. There is something unstoppable about a woman who no longer fears being alone. She doesn't chase, she attracts, not by force, but by truth, not by performance, but by presence. She knows that being alone with peace is better than being with someone who confuses love with distance. She knows that closeness is not measured by proximity, but by presence. And when presence is missing, love becomes performance. She's done performing. She's done twisting herself to fit into places that weren't built to hold her. She's done waiting for someone to see what she already knows, that she is enough, just as she is. Avoidants don't just lose her, they lose access to the safest place they ever had, and they realize it when it's too quiet, too late, when their own patterns echo back to them in the silence they once used as power. But silence is no match for a woman who has risen above it. She no longer breaks in its presence, she builds. Because she's not scared of the space between relationships. She understands that space is sacred, it's where clarity lives, it's where growth happens. And in that space, she finds herself again. You weren't asking for too much. You were just asking someone who wasn't capable of giving it, and now you know better. You know that your standards aren't barriers, they are filters. They separate the real from the temporary, the brave from the avoidant, the present from the unavailable. And you're no longer willing to compromise your peace to accommodate someone else's fear. That's not love, that's self-abandonment, and that chapter is over. The truth is, your healing was never meant to fix them, it was meant to free you from cycles, from silence, from settling. You're not here to convince anyone of your worth, you're here to embody it. And when you do, everything shifts. You stop trying to be chosen, you choose. You choose who has access to you. You choose what energy you allow in. You choose the kind of love you want and the kind you will no longer accept. That kind of power doesn't make you harder, it makes you softer with boundaries, more open with discernment, more loving without losing yourself. You are not bitter, you are better. Not because of what you lost, but because of what you remembered. You remembered you, and nothing is more powerful than that. The hardest part isn't letting go. The hardest part is realizing that you never had to hold on so tightly in the first place. You never had to convince someone to love you. You never had to beg for attention, affection, or respect. You are not here to make someone see your worth. You are here to recognize it for yourself. And when you do, you stop shrinking. You stop contorting yourself to fit into a mold that was never made for you. You stop adjusting your light so others feel comfortable in their darkness. Love isn't about fixing someone. It's about finding someone who doesn't need fixing. Someone who can match your energy without requiring you to give up yours. But when you're willing to settle for someone who isn't ready to meet you fully, you compromise who you are. You compromise your value. You compromise your peace. And this isn't about them. This is about you understanding that your energy is sacred and it can't be wasted. It deserves to be invested in someone who sees it, appreciates it, and adds to it. Not in someone who keeps it at arm's length because they're too afraid to truly feel. You don't need someone to make you feel alive. You need someone who helps you feel seen, who holds space for you to be exactly who you are, without hesitation, without fear. You need someone who mirrors back to you the beauty and power that has always been there. But when someone can't give you that, when they keep holding back, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to step into the light with you. And once you see that, once you understand it, there's no going back. There is immense freedom in realizing that your value isn't tied to someone else's availability or emotional readiness. It doesn't change based on how much someone can or can't give. Your worth is constant, it's steady, it's unconditional. And when you embrace that truth, when you stop allowing someone's silence to dictate your worth, You step into a new chapter of your life. You stop being defined by their decisions, their fears, or their distance. You start defining yourself by the love you give yourself. You didn't walk away to prove anything. You walked away because staying would have meant abandoning your own needs, your own boundaries, your own sense of self. And that isn't weakness, it's strength. It's strength to say, I won't shrink for anyone. I won't silence my needs for someone's comfort. When you choose to step into the life you deserve, you choose freedom. You choose self-respect. You choose love that nurtures, that grows, that uplifts. Not love that exhausts, that drains, that makes you feel small. Your power isn't in how much you've given. It's in knowing when to stop giving to places that don't deserve it. And in that pause, in that moment of clarity, you find your strength. The strength to stand tall, to choose your peace, to choose yourself. You are not someone who settles for less than what you deserve. You are someone who walks away from what isn't aligned with who you truly are. And that, in itself, is the most powerful choice you'll ever make. You have to stop seeing yourself as someone who is waiting for love to find her. You are not a passive player in your own story. You are the author, the creator, the one who decides what love looks like for you. The moment you realize that, you free yourself from the idea that someone else holds the key to your happiness. You've always had it. It was never outside of you. You've spent enough time placing your value in someone else's hands, waiting for them to validate you, to choose you, to show up for you. But now, you know that your happiness is yours to claim. You don't wait for permission to be loved. You live in the certainty that you are already worthy. When you stop giving away pieces of yourself, you realize how much you've been holding on to. Every ounce of energy you invested in waiting for someone to meet you where you are becomes an opportunity to invest in yourself. You stop pouring into empty cups, and instead, you pour into your own growth, your own peace, your own clarity. You start to see that the person you were always meant to wait for was never someone outside of you. It was you. You were the missing piece. And now, you're whole. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. You don't have to be everything to everyone, and you certainly don't have to be everything to someone who isn't ready to meet you halfway. You've already been enough. You've always been enough. The love you give yourself now is not a consolation prize. It's the foundation of the love you'll receive in return. The more you value your own worth, the less you will tolerate anything less than what aligns with that. The more you stand tall in your truth, the more you will attract what truly belongs to you. No more shrinking, no more pretending. You are not a reflection of someone else's emotional unavailability. You are a reflection of your own strength, your own journey, your own ability to rise from every setback and walk forward with your head held high. The moments when you doubted your own power are behind you now. They were merely stepping stones to this. To the woman who stands in the truth of her worth. The woman who no longer seeks to be chosen but knows that she is already chosen by life itself. You are no longer waiting for someone to catch up. You've already moved forward. And the beauty of that is, those who are meant for you will catch up effortlessly. They will meet you where you are because they are not afraid of the space you occupy. They won't hesitate to love you fully because they know they are worthy of that love too. You no longer wait for anyone's approval because you've already approved of yourself. The validation you seek is not found in someone else's gaze. It is found in your own reflection. And when you look in the mirror, you don't see someone who is incomplete. You see someone who is whole. Someone who is strong, powerful, and more than enough. This is your truth. And no one can ever take that away from you. The moment you realize that is the moment you unlock everything you've been searching for. And it starts with one simple choice: to choose yourself. And in that choice, you find your freedom. The moment you stop seeking validation from others is the moment you truly begin to embrace your power. You've spent enough time trying to earn the love, attention, and approval of people who weren't capable of giving it. And in that process, you lost sight of the most important thing, the love you already have for yourself. The truth is, you were always enough. You didn't need to prove your worth to anyone, not to them, not to anyone. The only person you needed to prove it to was you. The moment you realize that, everything shifts. You no longer wait for someone to choose you. You choose yourself, and that choice is the most transformative thing you can ever do. There is something deeply freeing about realizing that you don't have to chase after love. You don't have to beg for attention. You don't have to make excuses for someone's emotional unavailability. Because love, the kind that nourishes and heals, is not conditional. It's not about making someone see your worth. It's about standing in your own power, unapologetically, and saying, I know what I bring to the table. When you step into that truth, you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to earn someone's affection. You don't need to fight for their attention. You already have it. You already have everything you need inside of you. Your value doesn't change based on someone else's feelings, and the right person will see that. They will appreciate you for exactly who you are, without making you doubt yourself or shrink to fit into their world. The person who truly deserves your love is the one who can meet you where you are, who doesn't make you question your worth every time they pull away. You are not meant to chase after someone's approval. You are meant to walk alongside someone who sees you as an equal, someone who embraces you fully without hesitation, without fear. You have to trust that what is meant for you will come to you effortlessly. The right person will recognize your worth the moment they meet you, because they will understand that what you offer is a gift, not a burden. And the moment you stop questioning your worth and start owning it, you'll begin to attract that kind of love into your life. You will attract someone who values you, who cherishes you, who sees the beauty and strength in your soul. Someone who doesn't need you to prove anything to them because they already know. You are not here to settle. You are not here to play small. You are here to stand tall in your truth and walk with dignity. The moment you choose yourself, you step into a new realm of possibility. You stop seeking and you start living. You stop wondering if you are enough, and you start knowing that you are. And when you know that, you stop accepting less than what you deserve. You stop allowing anyone to treat you like an option. You are not an option. You are a priority. The right person will see that. The right person will value you. And in the meantime, you will continue to honor yourself, to love yourself, to choose yourself, knowing that you are enough.